question. Who is pro-king? Who out there? We just had to listen to No Kings for a few hours on Saturday, and then for the rest of the weekend, that was all the news coverage. Who are you fighting against? I find this amazingly frustrating because you can't even have a conversation with these people. Why are you out here? Well, we don't want any kings. Well, I don't think anybody does, Gina. So it's not just this, though. You've recognized this in other facets, and this is, I don't know, is this a specifically left-wing thing where they make up these straw men and just beat the snot out of them, and we're over here saying, who are you talking to? Because it's the same argument I've heard from you about Antifa. They're anti-fascist. Well, good for you. I don't think anybody's pro-fascist. I don't think there's any fascist. Who's a fascist? Call in if you're a fascist. 800-288-9227. I want to talk to a modern American fascist in 2025. Is there one in a position of power? And I don't even mean this like generally speaking. I mean, is there one elected official you can put a microphone and a camera in front of his face and say, hey, dude, are you a fascist? And he'll say yes. Is there one? Can you find it? Is it in Congress? Is it in the Senate, the House of Representatives? Is it in the White House? Is it any of the people on the Supreme Court? What about your state legislature, the House, the Senate, your governors, your lieutenant governors? Are any of them fascist? Can you put a microphone in front of any of these guys and say, are you pro-king? Are you pro-fascist? Oh, are you serious? We have a pro-king caller that is that sarcasm? Well, let me finish my bit and we'll take calls. 800-288-9227. Because this is the frustrating thing about Black Lives Matter. Who's saying Black lives don't matter? Is one person out there, if you put a microphone in front of him and you say, hey, do you believe Black lives don't matter? He'll say yes. And I'm sure there's some, I don't know, homeless person or some psycho out there, but I'm talking about in any elected position, all the way down to city council, all the way down to dog catcher. Is there one fascist? Is there one pro-monarchist? I used to tear my hair out. I don't have to do it anymore because the NFL stopped with the end racism in the end zones. Or they did it by the end of last year. They had it at the beginning of the year, but by the time the Super Bowl rolled around, they weren't doing that anymore. And I don't think they're going to do it again this year. They'll still have these kind of ethereal concept messages in the end zone. It takes all of us. It takes all of us for what? What are we, raising a barn after the game? Is that what we're doing like the Amish? You know, it takes 800 guys to frame a barn and pick up the sides. It takes all of us for what? But it used to say end racism in the end zone in the NFL. And I used to think, who are you talking to? First, who's the racist out there? Would they be watching football? Wouldn't you think like that would be their least favorite program on TV? Like if you are a white supremacist, what is the NFL to you? It's a big slap in the face. How do you explain that? Racist? But no, they're fighting nobody. There's nobody you can put a microphone in front of their face in an elected position of power. Are you a racist? He'll say yes. I mean, it's in D.C., it's in Austin, it's in your city council, your city hall, your county commissioner, whatever the heck. Who are you talking to? But like you hear environmentalists work on the same playbook. They're like, so why do you support this position or why do you support these subsidies for green energy or whatever? Well, because I don't want dirty air and dirty water. Well, no one wants dirty air and dirty water. Who are you people talking to? Mark in Mansfield or Cransfield Gap? Which one?
Cransfield Gap. Hi, James. How are you doing today?
Hey, Mark, are you pro-king?
I am pro-king. Do you remember when we were in school and they told us how great the Magna Carta was because it took away the power of the king? It took away the power of the king and gave it to the oligarchs who care nothing for the people. The true king is the king in the line of David and Solomon and Jesus, and they're not kings for they're not kings for the country. They're kings for the people of the country, and that's what the difference is. And I'd have to suspect that's the deal.
So you're pro-Jesus, but...
No, I'm saying I'm pro-king, and the true king is a king for the people of the country, and we took away the power of the king and gave it to the oligarchs who's been running things forever, who care nothing about the people. The real king in that line is the king for the people. He's not the king of the country or the king of the world. He's the king for the people.
All right, so what's your preferred system of government?
A benign monarch.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I asked for it. That's what it sounds like. There's one. Mark and Cransfield Gap. Mark, does anyone share your view that's in a position of elected power?
Um, not that I know of.
Yeah, same here. All right. Well, I asked for it. I got it. Thank you very much. Is anybody pro-fascist? Is there any fascists out there? While we're dealing with the No Kings protest, I don't think anybody besides Mark and Cransfield. See, you got one person. He's pretty much the exception that proves the rule. I don't know. I'm kind of suspicious about Trina over there. He might be pro-king. But let me hear from you. Are you pro-king? Were you really just totally offended by the protest? Because sometimes I am offended by the protest. Sometimes they're anti-American, or sometimes they're chanting from the river to the sea, which is sort of a rhetorical flourish on we want Jewish genocide. But in this one, they're running around saying no kings. It's like, well, I'm with you, bud. No kings. All right. I don't think we agree on anything else politically, but I'm not offended by this. Who are you talking to? So that kind of sums up my feelings for what most of the news coverage was over the weekend. What it should have been focused on is what's going on in Iran and Israel. They're now, I don't know if it's officially a war, but there's going to be a Wikipedia page for this if it doesn't exist already, the Israel-Iran war, where they kept lobbing missiles and attacks at each other all over the weekend. I'll get you caught up on where we are on that with Dr. Jeffrey Broder from Rigaku coming up next. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP, 800-288-9227. You know, with the protests taking up most of the oxygen out of the media room, I think a bigger story should have gotten more attention, and that is what's going on between Iran and Israel. The missiles didn't stop flying when the James Show ended on Friday. There were still attacks being lobbed back and forth over the weekend. You didn't hear a whole lot about it, so I'll help you get caught up. My next guest, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku. He's an expert in chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons. Welcome back to the James Show, Dr. Brodeur. Good to have you on. So, what did we miss over the weekend? Okay, well, let's slow walk through all the questions I have just from that first little salvo there. No pun intended. Let's talk about the exchanges that happened over the weekend. I saw Tehran got hit again. I saw Tel Aviv get hit. How bad was it? Well, how much longer can Iran keep this up? All right, we're talking with Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku. Let's talk about the scenario you mentioned where the Ayatollahs are removed or they're kicked out of power. The big scary part is who fills the power vacuum. Well, Dr. Broder, one rumor I heard over the weekend that they might bring back the son of the last Shah of Iran, and I don't know if that's a good idea. What are we going to go back to a monarchy? Why is this in the rumor mill? Right. All right, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur. Now that we've had a whole weekend to digest this, do you feel like this is just going to be Iran getting slapped down over the next week or so, or are we starting the next big war? Right. So you mean the Ayatollah is not being in power? Right. Well, there could be exile, but that's I guess that's far beyond my pay grade. Well, didn't they just exile someone else that got kicked out? Oh yeah, the Syria guy, Assad. He just got sent to exile. I think that might be my most recent blueprint I would look at. All right. Well, good talk there. Thanks for the updates. You know, I missed a lot of that over the weekend, and your expertise very appreciated on the James Show. It's Dr. Jeff. Yeah, we got 30 seconds. I heard about that last week. Can I just hit pause and we'll cover this in the next break? All right, we'll hold you over then. Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur, he is a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear consultant at Rigaku Analytical Devices. We'll get you caught up on the Chinese fungus story. I didn't know there was a more serious side to that. Find out next on The James Show. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome. This is the James Show. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. We're continuing with our guest, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur. He is an analyst in all things chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear at Rigaku Analytical Devices. And after getting us caught up on Iran versus Israel, give me the inside scoop on these Chinese that were caught smuggling in mushrooms. So was this more about interrupting our food supply or crashing our economy? Has it ever been used before? Have we done that to other people, or has someone tried this out in sort of a war setting? So, but people haven't really done that on purpose. That's interesting. One of the things that's not to say it won't work. One of the things I was surprised about is in the Israeli attack that they had set up some stations inside of Iran that launched some of the drones, because drones can't make it 2,000 kilometers, whatever a kilometer is. I just know that's the difference between Israel and some of their targets in Iran. So they had to go in and clandestinely, under the nose of the Iranians, set up these entire secret drone distribution bases. And I was thinking, wow, someone's probably doing that to us right now. Well, yeah, and it's already happened. The guy with the makeshift flamethrower. You had the guy that shot the two Jewish diplomats outside of the museum in D.C. So yeah, that's a great thing to remember. All right, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku, thank you very much again for your expertise. Thank you. All right, learned a lot there. Sorry to get so educational sometimes, but I think you wanted we're grown ups. So we can do deep dives into some of these news stories. And coming up next, I'm going to do a little bit deeper dive into the protests that happened over the weekend. Some of them definitely turned into riots. We had 10 cops that were injured in the line of duty at the No Kings protest in Los Angeles. They had some bigger shenanigans going on in Portland. Seattle wasn't very well behaved. But my question for you is for the protests that did turn into riots. Shouldn't the organizers be charged with inciting a riot? Shouldn't someone be charged with inciting the riot? I'll make the case next, coming up on the James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, and I was not participating in the No Kings protest over the weekend. Were you? I was occupied. I mean, I wouldn't have gone anyway. Sometimes I like to go and try and get audio for you. But, my kids had things planned on Saturday, so, far more important than protesting against a non-existent king. And things went pretty good here. Out in Bug Tussle, we actually had a No Kings protest. And, they try to whip up protests across the country as many places they can get to. And I think Bug Tussle is a good metric on whether or not this was a widespread protest. And there was one, and it was decent size out in Bug Tussle. It wasn't like the 10,000 we had here in Dallas, but I can't even tell where they were at. I was looking at some of the pictures online. And there's only like 4 parks in my hometown, so I didn't recognize it. But it looked like there were probably 200 to 300, and that's in a tiny town. So here in Dallas, just not too far from where I'm at now, the biggest number I saw was 10,000 protesters. I did see some video, and it wasn't any of that goofy stuff where some bald lady with gravity, caloric issues, or whatever you want to call it. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. Tries to stop traffic and has to walk backwards as somebody's pushing her with their front bumper. All the silliness was in other towns. So, round of applause, not just for, the normal listeners of WBAP, but at least our protesters aren't as crazy as they are in like Portland or Seattle or Los Angeles, where it looked like the battle scene from Braveheart. Yeah, in Portland, I think Portland had the worst of it. What is with that place? They did like the battering ram. They surrounded some sort of ice facility, and they busted out the front door with a battering ram, and it was glass shattering everywhere, and they had to like evacuate the building. Or get a grip, people. There's not even a king. But for these places where bad things did happen, where things did catch on fire, again, not Texas, we did pretty good. But, for an example, in Los Angeles, I saw a report that there were 10 officers that were seriously injured in the Los Angeles No Kings Day protest. 10? 10? That's kind of high. That seems like a lot. That seems like, the people who were so concerned about the insurrection on January 6th, and don't you care about they were attacking police? Adorable, though, that it still got labeled mostly peaceful LA riots. Well, it's mostly peaceful protests on January 6th then, too. But they also, the sheriff, they got to try and downplay it. The sheriff was quoted as saying there was some interesting weapons out there. And look, the word weapon is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. There's a very broad umbrella on what we're using for weapons. So 10 deputies were injured after protesters hurled rocks, Molotov cocktails, and high-grade pyrotechnics at them. Fireworks. Why don't you just say fireworks? Why don't you use normal layman words like the rest of us? Why do you have to talk in code? But when you see 10 officers hurt, when you see property destruction, when you see, cars on fire and stores looted, this isn't a protest anymore. This is a riot. So the question becomes, who incited a riot? Why is there never any responsibility for the groups that are putting these things together when they get out of hand? What's their incentive to not let it get out of hand if they're never punished? If you put together a protest and it gets out of hand, a bunch of people loot a Foot Locker, hurt 10 cops, set some cars on fire, no one gets handcuffs on them and thrown in jail from the organizer standpoint, what's their incentive for it to be more peaceful next time? None. In fact, the incentive is reversed. The more chaos, the more madness, the more fires, the pictures that take up the news on TV, the more their cause gets talked about. We were talking about this more than Iran and Israel being in a missile war over the weekend, and tons of people dying and buildings exploding. Look like Missile Command over there. So the incentive structure here is messed up until you start looking at who put this riot together, who didn't take the proper steps to make sure it didn't get out of hand, and then, of course, everyone on the ground that was a bad actor, punish them to the full extent of the law. We have the blueprint on what you should do January 6th. If some guy loitering through Statuary Hall, not even knocking over the velvet ropes, can go be tracked down based on his cell phone data, picked up at his house in Pilot Point, brought back to a federal detention facility, and held for over a year, 160 days in solitary confinement, again, just for walking through the Capitol building, through an unlocked door, past police who didn't stop him or say nary a word. They chunked a deuce, and he walked by and waved. I think we have to start charging these people with crimes. We have to end this idea, well, it was a protest, couple things caught on fire, but okay, it's just a bunch of people looking around watching cars burn. No, these are now not protesters. They're rioters. Whoever put these protests together, they incited a riot. They made a riot. They didn't organize a protest. They organized a riot. When things get this out of hand, this bad, and I'm not saying this is what happened in Dallas. I'm saying definitely Portland and Seattle, probably Los Angeles, but for a lot of these protests, we have to start charging the people who are funding these things. And remember the definition of terrorism. So when we want to talk about domestic terrorism, the definition of terrorism, violence or intimidation for a political cause, for a political ideology, usually on civilian targets, but doesn't that fit? When you're burning cars, when you're setting fire to Teslas to send a message to Elon Musk about you don't like what he's doing in D.C.? Yeah, right. Property damage, violence, intimidation. He's not setting them on fire just for fun. They're not roasting marshmallows. That is an act of intimidation. That is an act of political violence. That is terrorism. So now you have these guys, not only are the organizers funding, organizing, and inciting a riot, they're also funding terrorism. They're organizing. They're terrorist organizers. And I know that sounds extreme, like the guy on the radio is just being hyperbolic because he doesn't want us to turn the channel. No, I'm looking at the definitions of the words. I'm looking at what I saw with my own eyes. And you saw it too over the weekend. You've seen the cars burning. You've seen the Tesla dealerships on fire. You've seen F-ICE spelled out on the Apple store while guys go in and they rip out all the iPhones and gadgets they can get out of the Apple store, looting the Apple store, looting the Foot Locker. We have to stop pretending like it's not domestic terrorism. We have to stop pretending like it's not a riot. They wouldn't let you off. They don't let you off the hook if the shoe's on the other foot, do they? What happened to all those guys on January 6th? So they're playing for real. We're not. They're actually using the law and the power that they have against their political opponents to crush you underfoot. And when the shoe's on the other foot, no pun intended, you just going to let them skate? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Or don't do anything. Let's just let them get away with it again. And then every time they have a hissy fit, whatever the cause is, whether it's for a George Floyd or a Michael Brown or Palestinian genocide, now we got to occupy a college campus, or now we're upset about deportations, and now we're upset about kings that don't even exist. They're just going to keep doing it. You have to start going after these organizers. You have to start punishing the people. Look, everyone that set a car on fire, we can't go get them? I doubt it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Who's with me on this? We need to start charging these protest organizers with either inciting a riot, organizing terrorism, or both. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome back, fellow Texans. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Yeah, good to see you too. I'm your host, James Parker. And there were big No Kings protests over the weekend. I didn't go. I don't go to protests. It's not my thing. I don't really think that's what the Founding Fathers intended, or really any statecraft intended. If you don't like what's going on, you go stand in the median or in a local park, make a sign and yell. That doesn't sound very productive to me, but hey, some people, that's their lifestyle. That's their jam. And I have no problem as long as you're peaceful, as long as you're not blocking the road, as long as you're not destroying property, as long as you're not spray painting F Trump or F ICE or whatever on property that's not yours. You want to spray paint your own car, go ahead and knock yourself out. But when you see cars catching fire, when you have 10 cops that are injured in the LA protests that require medical attention, at some point, it crosses the line into a riot. And then I think we've done a very poor job of admitting that, recognizing that, and acting on it. Because if there's repeated riots over and over and over and over, and no one ever gets charged with inciting a riot, no one gets charged with funding a riot, or domestic terrorism, because it could very easily meet the definition of domestic terrorism, you're incentivizing more property destruction, more injured cops, more cars on fire. And I think we have to start taking this serious. If you organized a protest here in Dallas, it didn't get wild. There was no cars that caught on fire, nothing spontaneously combusted. You weren't blocking traffic for most of the time. And when the cops told you to move, you moved. Good for you. You guys are great. But for these people in like Portland, where they stormed an ICE building, they broke out the front door. And remember, we were told that, storming through a federal building, that's an insurrection there. Those people have to be charged with inciting a riot, or you're just incentivizing it to get worse and worse. Cassie in Argyle, you're on WBAP.
Hi, James. Yeah, why has something not been done? Nothing has been done for many, many years, many riots that turn out like this. If it means that the bigger cities, where those are where the bad riots usually happen, if it means that they need to be supplied with those big, huge water trucks that have the barrels on it, barrels and barrels and barrels of huge barrels of water, and high-powered hoses, and immediately when they start this, in fact, the trucks are sitting there.
All right, hang on.
The riots are scheduled to be taking place.
Listen. Tap the brakes, Bull Connor. We don't need to hit them with water hoses. In all these other towns, like in Dallas, we didn't have crazy people going nuts. Not because we hit them with water hoses. It's because the leaders here don't want it to happen. The cops already can shut it down at any time, whenever they want to. But if you're in a hyper blue jurisdiction like a downtown Portland, those people you would be hitting with water hoses are your voters. Those people that you would have the cops pushing them out of the street. You agree with them. You want.
No, we're not going to get the okay from the mayor or from the governor. These are going to be appointed because our president says they will be. Nobody gets to say no. We're not going to have those trucks here, not in our city. Too bad. They're going to be anywhere there is a protest.
But we don't need no, you're missing the point. I'm just not explaining myself well. We don't need the truck. It's not that they don't have trucks. They already have the means to break it up. They just don't want to. The Portland police are told to stand down. The Portland police aren't told to close.
Who tells them that? Who tells them to stand down?
Their police chief, and either the city manager or the mayor and the city council has their backing, because those. So in a lot of cities,
what needs to go. Somebody over them.
But the protesters are the ones voting in the current mayor and the city council. I know we're supposed to be like nonpartisan.
Protests will be overridden because of what they're doing, what they've chosen to do. This is going to be overrode by the president, who says, I don't care what city you're in. I don't care who you are, mayor.
You can't do that. Listen,
governor.
Here's the deal. There's a very good, separation of powers, federal, state, and local. There's the Posse Comitatus Act. There's the Insurrection Act. And if these people want to burn down their own neighborhoods, maybe we shouldn't get in the way. Maybe we should just let Portland burn itself to the ground.
Because they're hurting our policemen. They're shooting things at them. next thing we know, they're going to be catching them on fire. Then is the tune going to change? Is that what it's going to take? No. It should have been stopped back in the George Floyd days and probably even before that because we didn't have this kind of crap going on back then.
I agree with all that, too.
Once this started, and nobody did a thing about it. In fact, we've got a policeman sitting in prison right now because he didn't take this from George Floyd, who said, "No, I don't have to obey you. I'm not going to get out of my car."
Cassie, you're fantastic. Thank you very much for calling. Let's go to Matt in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP. What do you think about charging the protesters with rioting?
I am 100% for it, James, but you already hit on the point that you're not going to be able to do it when you have DAs that are not going to prosecute. And it seems like all these riots are inciting in states and town and cities that you got a DA that's not going to charge any of them. Now, the only thing we could do is charge them on the federal level when they're breaking into these federal buildings. But I mean, like I said, I'm 100% of just give them enough rope to hang themselves. Let them burn. Pull the police out of there. Let them burn their own city to the ground.
Yeah, and I feel the debate like we all have is, there's a lot of people in Portland who don't want that to happen, and they are just sort of innocent bystanders, and they vote against these people. They just happen to lose these elections. It's not really fair that they suffer either, and I agree. It's not really fair that they suffer, but if they suffer enough, they're going to move out, and it'll sort of be a downward spiral.
Absolutely, like I said, it's a free country that can move to a more friendly city, and maybe they don't have the means to, but still, it's like you're going to have to get out there and get progressive about getting these liberals out of power, or nothing's going to change. You're just going to be fighting against the system.
What I hear from Portland is sort of an accelerated behavior you see in a lot of major cities where a lot of these people have moved. They just moved to the suburbs and they just drive an hour just so they don't have to live next door to these knuckleheads.
Yes. I mean, but it's so frustrating because it's like we're fighting against a system that just is so insulated. Yeah. It's like every time you turn around, it's like the stuff that comes out of their mouth, they're talking out both sides of their face. It's just so frustrating. I wish we could change it, with a snap of the fingers, but we can't. But I think that, like you said, just let them hang themselves, give them enough rope to hang themselves with, and then because there's still going to be there's still going to be collateral damage. But
no, hey,
anyways,
that's a great call, Matt in Fort Worth. You did well. I also want to say that people on TV that are watching this, it's kind of easy to see who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. 800-288-9227. We'll continue talking about charging the protest organizers with inciting a riot. If you want to be after Al and Garland, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hang on, I stumbled into a dance club, I think. Sorry about that. We're talking about the No Kings protest over the weekend because, look, it was protest here. Congratulations to the protesters in Dallas, Denton, Fort Worth, Bug Tussle. Y'all seem to behave pretty well. But it wasn't so in some other jurisdictions, and it's the regular cast of characters, the Portland, the Seattle, the Los Angeles. I didn't see San Francisco, but I bet it was a little more excitement than what we had here in the great state of Texas. And I'm tired of seeing this. I think that we should start charging the organizers, the people who fund this, the people who are putting together, passing out signs and flyers and websites and newsletters. You guys need to be charged with inciting a riot. You guys are putting out a mob on the street that isn't following the law, and it's happening multiple times. It's not an accident. It's not like, well, we intended it to be a peaceful protest, but some bad actors showed up and it got out of hand. Nah, you could do that like once or twice. No, you do that for months and months at a time. I think we had this discussion during the George Floyd Summer of Love. And since no one was charged with inciting a riot, no one was charged with domestic terrorism or some other big crime. And I'm not just talking about the people on the ground. I'm talking about the people wearing the little nerdy reflective vests, the people who are funding this, the people who are running it, the people who are getting the permits. There's a head of the snake. And until you start charging them with something, their incentive is for it to be as bad as possible. Cynthia. Oh, no, wait. I told Al he was next. Al in Garland, you're next up on WBAP. Go.
Yes, James, I am with you, but if you try to go after organizers, they will go after gun manufacturers next. That's a heavy lift. You have to be able to prove they knew that it was going to go south. Or if let's say I sold you a weapon and you go do something bad with it, you can't come after me because you did something dumb. Now, you would have to prove that I knew you would do something stupid. And that's a slippery slope that no one wants to go down.
Well, I don't think it's the same as the gun manufacturer liability, and I'll tell you why, is because it happens over and over and over. And so they don't have the plausible deniability where they can say, well, look, I just set up this rally and it got out of hand. No, this is what happened at the last 6 rallies, and you didn't change anything. So you knew damn well, you should have known damn well. You have no plausible deniability if it's happened over and over. I think your argument would work in a vacuum if we had had no other violent protests before this weekend and this one just popped out. But when it's the regular deal from the same people over and over, it's the same reason they shut down some clubs. How many shootings have to happen at a club before they shut them down? And the reason is it's like kind of the same thing. You are making an unsafe condition, and it's sort of like inciting a riot. If it happens 3 or 4 times, maybe the 4th and 5th time, you need to hire more security or have some material on your website that says, for the love of God and everything holy, do not attack cops. Or your little nerds that are running around with the hall monitor vest on, like they're the safety team in the carpool line at elementary school. If you had them tasked to stopping people that were throwing bricks at cops, but if they're making no effort to stop this, and it's happened over and over, I think that's where it crosses the line and differs from gun liability.
But you still have to prove that they knew it was going to go south.
Right, and all I'm relying on there is the last 4 protests that they did. They ended up with stuff on fire, and since they took no extra precautions, any normal person, any common sense, even someone with a low IQ would think, we better do something different or cars are going to catch on fire again, and they didn't.
I still think if you go down that road, they will come after everybody who.
Oh, they're going to come after guns anyway.
Something bad happening. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right, probably.
Hey, great discussion though, Al. Thanks for calling in. Now, Cynthia Midlothian, you're on WBAP. Your thoughts?
Hi. Thank you so much for always having discussions like this. You cause your listeners to think and come up with ways that maybe we can do something. I appreciate you calling us out to do that. My thought is we have many different planks to maybe go into that we can do individually. So I'm thinking about me, wondering if the police, if Seattle and other places like that are not taking care of their policemen. Texas loves policemen, and we're having trouble getting enough of them. How about letters to those policemen in Washington offering them come to Texas, work here. We will love you. How about if we put a big advertisement in all of the newspapers? Leave that state. What do you think people would think if they thought we're not going to have probably a police department at all? They don't treat them well. What would they be like without them? Let's let these policemen come and work where they're appreciated.
Boy,
what do you think?
This is a ripe recruiting opportunity, sure, because we have the hero amendments that passed in Dallas. We still haven't hired enough cops. You're absolutely right. We're a few hundred behind. So yeah, a couple billboards, maybe a couple ads, and we don't even look. I think they know we're probably more pro cop around here. But let's just send them a link to like some of the videos of our protest versus their protest. We'll do a side by side, and and you know what, that's a good point. We can maybe score some good cops out of Seattle and Portland right now.
We can, and I'm going to start with talking to my city government and see who they can recommend me going to talk to at the state level. I just want to be sure that there's no litigation issues with writing these letters and saying, come to Texas. I mean, you can't offer them a job per se, but you can say, we're even lowering standards now for you to become a policeman because we can't get enough of you to
just make a TikTok video and tag the Seattle and Portland Police Department in it. I think that's what you need to do.
All right.
Thank you, Cynthia and Midlothian. Let's go to Steve and Justin. You're on WBAP. Go.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you on your car's Bluetooth?
No, sir. On my iPhone. Can you hear me now? Okay, here's the solution. K9. Stick them on them. That's my solution.
All right. I mean, that's not bad. Then I'm not against that, but that doesn't punish the people who are putting this together. And until they have consequences, we're going to continue to see these protests that look like third world country. It's embarrassing, kind of, isn't it? It's like if it's not embarrassing, it should be big cities. And I'm not indicting anybody around here. Thank you very much for your call, Steve. But like Portland, that's an embarrassing look for you guys. Seattle, you're not embarrassed how feral your people are? Look, we have plenty of Democrats. We have millions of Democrats here in North Texas, and they can get together and they can make cutesy signs with fun puns on them, and they can block the streets. And when the police tell them to move, they move. Nothing catches fire. No one looted a Foot Locker. But this goes back to what we've been saying through all of these protests. At what point do you realize you're not the good guys anymore? Shouldn't setting a car on fire make you think, hang on a second, are we the baddies? Because you are. All right, coming up next, I don't even know if this is real. Is this real? We're having the Tiger King on. Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, is going to be my guest from prison. He's got a message he wants to get out, and it has something to do with Ron DeSantis or something. Yeah, this is a weird one, but I'm a big fan, so anytime he wants to come on the show, I'll give him a shot. I hope this isn't some prank. But if all is on the up and up, you're going to hear from the Tiger King, Joe Exotic, next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right. Thanks for hanging out on the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. We're awaiting a call from the Tiger King. He's awaiting a pardon from President Trump, and he just might get it. That's what's coming up when we get him in from prison. But we continue talking about the protesters here. Aaron in Sherman is next up. And I want to ask you, Aaron, what do you think of my idea of charging the protests that turn into riots? Whoever organized that, they need to get charged with inciting a riot.
I think the protesters should be charged with treason, and I think the organizers should be charged with a RICO charge because they know the outcome of organizing such a thing. Charge them with the higher crimes, let them settle out of court for the lower crime of rioting. But the organizers know that this is going to happen from the liberal side because no liberal protested when Barack Obama was taking people out. And, of course, no Republican or conservative put up a fight because we agree with it. So there was no rioting when any Democrat was removing people by the millions. But when the president is a Republican and they remove people by the millions, then there's Democratic rioting because they're sore losers. But the organizers know that the violence is going to happen. So to me, that's a RICO charge.
Maybe. You've actually come off a little harder than me. Congratulations. But look, just for people who think you're making this up, this is a news report from 2014, what Aaron is saying.
He's been criticized for being the deporter-in-chief, and now a new report reveals that more than 2 million immigrants were deported under President Obama's administration. According to the Department of Homeland Security, 438,421 deportations were carried out by the Obama administration in 2013. About 198,000 of those were migrants with criminal records. But some 240,000 had no criminal records.
Right. So not only was he deporting people, most of them didn't have any criminal record other than the immigration stuff. So you're making a solid point on yet another double standard there, Aaron.
The Democrats want to say that these people have no criminal record, but I was listening to another show earlier today that made the valid point. The fact that you're in the country illegally is a crime. Whether you have a underlying criminal record or not, the fact that you're here illegally is a crime within itself. So the moment you cross the border without seeking asylum, you are a criminal. The moment I walk into a bank after hours, whether I open the vault or not, I'm a bank robber.
But Aaron, here's what they're going to say immediately back, and I know because I've been watching this too long. It's not a criminal penalty; it's a civil offense. So no, they're not automatically they're not illegal just for crossing the border illegally. Yes, they are. This level of nuance that they have for their side, but your side's literally Hitler for saying some of the same words like bloodbath or breathing air just like Hitler. Yeah, it's the grace only goes one way. You're making a good point. I think you might even be a little more hard on him than me because I don't think it's treason. I don't think the guy that's chucking a brick through a Foot Locker window and then going and getting some Air Force Ones is trying to overthrow the government.
Well, I think the guy that is throwing bricks at a ICE agent vehicle or at a Homeland Security vehicle, that is uprising against your government, period.
It's closer to treason or insurrection than anything that happened on January 6th.
Yes, most definitely, because nothing that happened on January the 6th was designed to hurt an American governmental official.
Well, maybe the bear spray guy. There was a bear spray guy. Well, we can all agree that he's a bad person and throw him in prison and he shouldn't get a pardon or whatever. But, yeah, all right.
What's going to be sad to see is when Trump leaves office, and I hope this doesn't happen, but a Democrat may take office, and that Democrat is going to remove illegal aliens, you will see no rioting whatsoever because we as conservatives agree with it. And Democrats only hate the message depending on the messenger.
Well, they just riot when they're told to riot. They don't riot when people are deported or, people who don't have any additional criminal charges or families are being separated. They didn't care when it was the other guy. Yeah, so the obvious double standard, it probably doesn't affect them, but there's people who are just kind of barely paying attention, who are sort of not sure what side they're on, and this has to push people onto our side.
Yep, that's why I think the organizers should be charged with organized crime because they're telling these people to protest is leading to violence, and that is organizing a crime. If you can charge a rapper with RICO for having 1,000 bottles of baby oil, You can charge a guy who's saying, hey, go out here, throw bricks, and I'm going to give you some Democratic merch for it. That is organized
There you go.
crime
Okay.
by definition.
Man, when you put it like that, I have to agree. Thank you very much. This is Aaron and Sherman, y'all. This is Gene in Willow Park. You're on WBAP. What do you think about charging protesters with crimes? Protest organizers with crimes.
Hey, I think it's a great idea. Yeah. In fact, there's a thing I haven't heard anybody mention, but there in L.A., when they shut down what was part of the interstate system, they immediately invoked Trump's ability to go in there because the interstate system was created by Eisenhower not as a public service, but as a means to move the military around within this country.
So what does that make the charges?
If you're disabling the ability of the military, isn't that treason?
Man, I don't know if that's treason or straight up act of war.
Well, there you go.
That'd be even worse. Then we could send you to Gitmo.
Well, I haven't heard anybody mention that, but I think we've forgotten what the purpose of the interstate system is.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, I mean, that's the bogus reason they said to pass it, because they knew it was unconstitutional, and it's still unconstitutional. But they're like, no, this is for defense purposes only. Really? In case we need to get a tank from Minnesota to Montana in an orderly fashion? Stop it. That was just an excuse to let the government get into the transportation business. And now they've got it all the way to federal funding for bike lanes next to the American Airlines Center that drive me insane. So,
there is that, but I agree with you 100%. Those people ought to be locked up from the top down and just gotten rid of.
Well, you brought us a new good angle to think about, so thank you very much. That's Gene in Willow Park. Round of applause. All right, we'll try and get Tiger King. If not, we'll continue talking about the protests, and we have some updates here on Iran and Israel. We also have some updates about a shocking number of murders that have happened in the DFW area in the last week. So plenty to come on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You remember 5 years ago when we were all locked in our house because of the stupid COVID lockdowns? Most of us discovered a new show on Netflix called The Tiger King, and we fell in love with the guy. He's America's favorite flamboyant, gay, polygamous tiger collector. He's also in prison. Joining me now, Joe Exotic, the Tiger King on the James Show. Honored to have you, sir.
James, I appreciate you having me, man. I'm sorry I'm late, but I got stuck at the medical clinic today.
Well, listen, you're in prison. I imagine you got more important things to deal with than some smart aleck on the radio. But get us all caught up. Since Tiger King happened, you're in prison. Can you explain to the people who've never seen one episode of your show how you ended up where you're at in about 1 or 2 minutes?
Boy, it took a few criminals to pull off what they pulled off. But, since Tiger King, they had Tiger King Season 2. They've all admitted to perjury. They even went as far as to take the film crew, my lawyers, to the zoo and show them where they hid a murder weapon in the woods where they were going to kill me in order to get my zoo. It's a mess, but we have all the evidence it takes to get me out of here now. It's just a slow process of getting through the appellate court.
Yeah, so it seems like you could get out going through the proper legal channels, or there's been a little bit of a movement to get Trump to pardon you. And from what I understand, he's a fan.
Don Jr. has been a big supporter of mine. I haven't heard really too much directly from President Trump, but he has spoken about me. And then, I've got some pretty good people out there talking for me, James Rogan and Dana White and Hulk Hogan and a few others. So we're hopeful, but, I've been on appeal for 3 years already waiting for the court to decide whether or not I can get a new trial. But this system is it's slow.
What's happened to all your tigers since you've been in prison?
Well, Carol got them all, that was her goal. And, they passed the Big Cat Safety Act, which they named the Tiger King bill, which made everybody illegal in America to be able to own a tiger except Carol Baskin's Global Federation Animal Sanctuary. So they divided up 260 of my tigers throughout their little organizations, and they're doing the exact same thing I did. They're charging $50 a person to come see Tiger King's tigers.
So there's obvious motive for you to be set up. I mean, does Carol Baskin ever go to prison at some point?
Well, let's hope, because we have the evidence now that all of the witnesses were actually paid very large sums of cash to carry this agenda and perjure themselves. We've got this on videotape now.
See, I haven't seen that videotape stuff. I'm a little behind in the storyline here. Fill me in.
Well, if you go to my website, joeexoticofficial.com, and go to the evidence link, the actual videos and 700 phone calls are there, because Jeff Lowe and James Garrison and Alan Glover, who the government had create this crime, they took the zoo away from me and put me in prison. Well, then the feds took the zoo away from them, so they turned on the feds and turned over their cell phones, and they were recording the feds the entire time. The feds knew they were lying. I mean, it was a plan, but unfortunately, the scary part is Kamala Harris actually sponsored the Big Cat Safety Act for Carol to pull this off.
Yeah, explain that part. We're talking with Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. How is Kamala Harris involved in this?
Well, she posted on her Twitter, and we've got screenshots of it for court, and we put it on my Instagram and Twitter, in the past. So it's there, screenshots of her bragging on her Twitter page that she sponsored the Big Cat Safety Act for Carol and for everybody to go watch Tiger King because it was a train wreck. And that was the purpose of making Tiger King, was to push this bill, because I kept it from passing for 11 years. And they made me look like, they made us all look like clowns on Tiger King, and they got it passed, and President Biden signed it into law, and Carol and the Global Federation Animal Sanctuaries are the only ones exempt from that law, so they're the only ones in America that can own a tiger nowadays.
Joe Exotic, I see you have a song on Spotify. Now, that sounds great. Is that you singing?
Okay, now, I'm not going to lie. I write a bunch of songs from prison, and my social media team out there, God help them, They have some kind of music AI program that actually does the singing until I get out.
I was about to say that doesn't sound like your voice, but that definitely sounds like your content.
But it is my content, that's for sure.
So how's prison treating you, Joe Exotic? Are you a hero in there? You've got to be one of the bigger celebrities.
Well, it helps me
This call is from a federal prison.
because I get along with everybody. You carry yourself right and you do good business, and don't cause any bullshit. But the prison system itself is pretty pathetic, James. The taxpayers would be ashamed to know that they're paying for what really goes on in here. It's crazy.
All right, Joe Exotic, I think most of us are pulling for you. It seems like a bum deal that you got in prison. We all fell in love with you on the Tiger King, and you're a weird guy with some eccentricities, but you do not deserve prison. That's for damn sure. So best of luck, sir.
Not 21 years, huh?
Oh my God, definitely not. Joe Exotic, good luck. If there's anything I can do, let me know.
We all listen to you every day, James. Thank you for having me, man.
Wait, how are you listening to me every day? Where are you at?
I'm in Fort Worth, Texas, at the medical center right here by I-20.
Joe, you listen to my show?
Hey, this prison listens to you every day. There's 1,400 people in here that you got fans that you don't know about.
Oh, I am honored. That is so. I had no idea you even knew I existed. Oh, dude.
Oh yeah, we listen to you every day, buddy.
All right. Well, I'm a big fan of yours. Anytime you want to come on, just send me another message on Twitter or whatever, and we'll make it happen. Thanks
I'll
again.
have my people contact you. Thank you.
Well, dude, I'm kind of humbled here. What an honor. The Tiger King knows I exist. That's cool. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. More calls on the protester subject coming up next. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, if you're just joining us, you're late. You missed my interview with the Tiger King in the last segment. I will put it up on the podcast. Don't worry, I'll clip that out. I'll put it up on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, Twitch, X, whatever we're calling it these days. Still rolling from that. But we're not done with the protests, because there's another round of protests coming up, and you're like, wait a second, didn't they just do this weekend? Yes, there's another. It's never going to end. There's in 2 weekends from now, not this weekend, but next weekend, there's going to be another round of national protests. Well, what's it about, James? They'll find something. I got on a bunch of mailing lists. I got on a bunch of newsletters for these people, and it's not going to stop. It's not going to. And really, I don't mind that you protest. I didn't mind the protest this weekend in Dallas. You guys were well behaved. Arlington had like 2,000 people out in Arlington, which I thought was huge. Fort Worth had a big one. Denton had a big one. Even out in my hometown of Bugtussle, there was like 200, 300 people packing a park there. And around here, we were quite well behaved. So no problems there. But when things start catching fire and people are chucking bricks through windows and looting stores and whatnot, we've got to do a better job of cracking down, because that's not okay. And there's a lot of innocent people in those jurisdictions. Like, I feel like part of me thinks, well, look, if Team Blue constituents want to go to Team Blue businesses and Team Blue cities and wreck shop, then they're really only hurting themselves. But it's not really a good way to arrange society now, is it? So I think the ones that get out of hand, we've got to start dropping the hammer on these people. And that includes inciting a riot or domestic terrorism or whatever the charges is. These protests that routinely get out of control, we've got to do something about that. Johnny, and is this supposed to be Capel and you just spell terrible? Is that what that is?
No, there's a town called Caperl.
Caperl. Okay, I thought maybe Garrett had just slipped an L in there. What the heck is Caperl?
No. Well, it's pretty much ranches for the most part.
All right. Well, I can't make fun of anyone's small town. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking everything begets from money. So if you are inciting a riot, you throw the first brick, the fines ought to be, as far as the crime, you're inciting a riot, it could go bad. There should be $10,000 minimum, 5 years in prison, something ridiculous where nobody's that stupid. Well, we're talking about...
Yeah, some people are that stupid. Okay, so let's bounce this back and forth from here to Caperl. Caperl? Am I saying it right? Caperl. All right, I'll get it right. I can be trained. So if we charge the people on the ground, and they're the ones who have to pay for it, they're the ones who go to... Yeah, I think it has to be the organizers that get charged with that. Now,
all the way.
Now, we don't do that necessarily for criminal charges. We do that for you can civilly sue people like that. Now, that's going to be a big pain in the butt, because now the franchise owner of the Foot Locker or Baskin Robbins or whatever got looted, they have to cover the cost until they win the case and are made whole. So that seems to be a shortcoming there, because, lawfare takes money to execute. So, I'm wondering what we do about that. And I don't have all the answers, Johnny, but I think you and I are sort of on the same page.
Well, just like an arsonist, it burns down a house and you go, oh my gosh, I'm going to go after that guy. You got to pay for what you caused. Well, he burnt down 1,700 acres. Should that guy not be responsible? Just like whoever moved up the chain.
No, you're asking the right questions. But what happens in the real world is it's just some meth head that's going to get thrown in jail and doesn't have the money to compensate you anyway. So even if you
way of the chain.
Okay. Now we agree, but
it's like a criminal. Just like the mafia.
Rico.
Okay, I told Lefty to go bump the guy. Rico, yeah.
Rico, okay.
That guy. Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you on that. I think we're on the same page here. We've got to find some way to bring the hammer down on the people who are organizing this, because the way I see it, the incentive isn't for it to stop or even be peaceful. The worse it is, the better it is for the organizers. The more attention they get, the more they get the public sort of scared and thinking, look, we just need to do whatever it is to stop this. Look, if we have to stop deportations, we'll stop it. It's not worth all this, or whatever the complaint of the day is.
Well, just like the deportations, I don't understand why they're not making money at it, because the way to stop it is to go, okay, if you hire an illegal, there's a $10,000 a day fine. They will be leaving in droves. Because if you're taking away the employer, what is the employees going to do?
Yes.
Charge?
Yeah. I agree. It's already illegal though. So what are we going to do? Make it illegaler?
You charge the manufacturers, the industries that are hiring. I'm telling you, I've been to chicken farms and
I know.
been to
Look out in Buck Tussle, we have the Pilgrim's Pride plants, we have the Tyson's chicken plants,
Exactly.
we have but the thing is it's already illegal, and you say, well, we should, we should, but we're not. So what do we change to make that happen?
charge them.
It's
for
already
every
illegal. We're
one
just
they-
not enforcing the laws. That's the crazy part about this. Is so many of the problems that you and I identified, Johnny, would be. We don't need another law to pass them to solve it. We just need to enforce the existing
We
laws.
go after the money. That's how it all begins. They're all after making more money. You hit them in their pocketbook. They know you're not going to do anything to the law. Well, let's just hit them in the pocketbook.
I hear
That's
you.
what this is all about.
I hear you. All right, we're on the same page down in Caperl. Thank you, sir.
Caperl.
Caperl.
Okay, have a good one.
Thanks, sir. Gary Chatfield, you're on WBAP. Go.
Hey, it's Gary in Chatfield. How you doing?
Hey, Gary.
Yeah, just a quick thing. 8 Section 1325. It is a federal offense to jump the border. It is punishable by a fine and 6 months in prison and immediate deportation. And the state that you commit the crime in can pursue civil penalties.
Yes, so that's a civil crime. It's not like a crime.
Well, no, it is a federal crime, punishable. The feds can put you in jail for 6 months.
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying what the clapback is. Like the Sonny Hostins on The View are like, it's not even really illegal. They're not even criminals. It's just a civil penalty. It's like, go. Yeah.
It's the word and. It's the word and. It's a civil. It's federal crime and a civil penalty pursued by if the state wants to. And like if you try to marry a girl fraudulently to stay in the country, or you get on welfare, the state can come at you for that. The feds put you in jail and throw you out.
Oh, I totally agree. I just wish more people got the message, Gary. You're absolutely right. Thanks, sir. Ooh, callers are good today. What's wrong with y'all? Or really, what's right with y'all? I shouldn't complain. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up, David Hamilton is going to get you caught up on the foreign policy stuff that's going on with Iran and Israel. How does that affect China and Russia and all the other fun stuff going on? You'll find out in about 4 minutes on the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey, homeowners, I got a bunch of rain on my roof this weekend. How did you do? You know, on a long enough time scale, you are going to need a new roof. And you can't say that about everything else in your house. You're not ever going to have to like re-brick up the back wall, or you're not going to necessarily need a new foundation. You might not ever need a new oven, but you're going to need a new roof. And at some point, you're going to have to trust a company that you're going to go online, you're going to read a bunch of reviews, you're going to find out who does what and what your neighbors are saying about them. And I want you to start that process with Blue Ribbon Roofing. James Parker here for BlueRibbonDFW.com. Don't just listen to me. Don't just listen to Casey. Don't just listen to Bob over on the ticket. Go to the website, click through to the section where it says reviews, and you can read some of the hundreds of 5-star reviews that have been left on Google for Blue Ribbon Roofing. It's a family company, been doing this for 31 years. I know the family personally, John, Tish, and Trevor. And look, I want to hear your 5-star Google review coming up in a couple weeks or so. It starts with you going, making the call, getting the free roof inspection. The work, it'll just take a few days to get that done, and then a few days for you to do that 5-star review. And then you can do it like Tanner did. Tanner said Blue Ribbon did an amazing job on our USAA roof claim. They made it very easy. We will use them from now on. He misspelled on there, but the thought was important from Tanner. Their 5-star review, that was just in April on our roof that they did. So I want to hear it from you. Whatever your insurance is, whatever your situation is, they can help you with it. This is what they do. Go to blueribbondfw.com, blueribbondfw.com. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Between the anti-ICE protests, the No Kings, whatever, the actual news that affects your money, the stock market, the economy, all that stuff, every once in a while you turn on the news channels, and in the background, there's missiles that are flying back and forth. You'd think this would be a bigger deal. David Hamilton's our next guest from the National Security Economic Center at UNT. And David, I guess they just don't think that this is going to last very long, or this is World War III popping off. The news seems quite bored with this after the first 48 hours. I see what you did there. I did see that viral video of they were live on TV when the bombs were hitting, and that's probably good for ratings. I'm not asking anyone to bomb WBAP, but if I stayed on the air through that would probably be some pretty exciting radio. Yeah, pretty close to it. So I'm starting to also get the feeling, I don't know like you do, David, but I'm getting the feeling that Iran's capabilities to continue lobbing missiles back at Israel, it feels like it's going to run out soon. Well, who does care? Is there another like Shia state that is going to take up for him? All right. Well, without any friends here, they can't keep reproducing missiles. They can't keep regenerating their air defenses. Do they even have an air force at this point? Yeah, right. Unrefined gas station. Yeah, the 60-day window was running out when we were talking about that. This is David Hamilton from the National Security Economic Center at UNT. David, here's a tough question. We all want the Ayatollahs out there, but if we knock them out, there's a power vacuum. Who takes their place? Could something worse take their place? Could something kind of as bad take their place? I mean, what's the likelihood that we get a much better government? Can All right, we're talking with David Hamilton here. Let's try and do another impossible prediction here. How long does this last? I feel like Iran's going to have to come to the table within 2 weeks. Well, my counterexample to that, David, would be the guy that was in charge of Libya, Gaddafi. He was a terrorist butthead for a while. He took a big punch to the face, and then he kept his mouth shut until the Arab Spring. I didn't expect you to say that. You expect the Ayatollahs to die on their feet. All right. Now, all makes sense there. David Hamilton, National Security Economic Center at UNT. Appreciate your time, sir. Thanks for coming on. All right, coming up next, Dead or Alive. We're playing for 2 tickets to see Luke Bryan at the Dos Equis Pavilion this Friday, June 20th. You can get tickets at livenation.com, or you can call in right now, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. We're playing Dead or Alive with the top TV shows of 1983. Next, it's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Now, it's my buddy Bob Lavelle, Home Marketing Services. Listen, getting in a home isn't just something because, well, it could be cheaper than the rent you're paying. It's also after you pay all these payments for a few years and you have to move, you get to take a big pile of cash with you. And Bob Lavelle, a lot of people are finding out this is the one way that you can start building wealth is owning your home.
We talked about that a little bit last week, and after that conversation, a lady called me named Catherine, and Catherine listens to you pretty regularly. She's going to come in and see us on Wednesday because that's when we actually visit with clients to answer their questions face-to-face. And it was interesting because she said she was, I won't give exact, but in her mid-50s, and she's never owned a home.
Wow.
And a friend of hers who did own a home just sold it and cashed out to get another home. She said she had more in her home equity than she did in her 401k after working for the same place for 25 years. And she thought, if my friend can do it, I should be able to do it. So when she comes in Wednesday, hopefully we'll be able to tell her, yes, you can do it, Catherine. And the way to find out is make that phone call. And we had one, you and I talked about this so many times. The hardest part is making the call. That's what takes the courage. Someone called a week or so ago and said, this is my courage call, and hung up. Well, I used the caller ID to call her back. I said, hello, Courage. Now I'm going to follow up with Courage and say, Courage, after our talk last week, yes, that's the hard part, make the phone call. The second hard part is come into the doggone office, okay? So talk to your husband, come on in. Let's find out.
All right, if you're already paying $1,500 a month in rent, or definitely $2,000 or more, you're killing yourself with this rent stuff. You've got to get in the home ownership game, and you've got to call Bob. 972-392-9595. 972-392-9595. Go to blessyourheart.com or call my friend Bob, and he'll get you started on owning a home. 972-392-95. It's easier than you think. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, James.
Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You are just in time for our game show, Dead or Alive. Thank you, Mr. Jovi. Hair triggered Bon Jovi today. Today we're playing for 2 tickets to see Luke Bryan coming to Dos Equis Pavilion this Friday, June 20th. Get tickets at livenation.com, or if you're one of the people that are on hold right now, maybe I can just get you a pair for free. Play along in your car or at work, or if you're hanging out with Joe Exotic in prison. Today's episode is the top TV shows of 1983. That's so cool. We have prisoners who are playing right now. Isn't that cool? All right, let's go to the contestants here. First one, Becky in Arlington. You ready for Dead or Alive, the 1983 TV show edition?
I'm going to give it my best shot.
All right. Well, look, these were the top TV shows. These are all the top 20 TV shows 1983, but some of them seem kind of obscure here. Let's start out here. Kill that music, because I think maybe the theme music could help. This is the theme music, Becky in Arlington, to Simon and Simon. It was one of the top TV shows in 1983. Simon's name was Gerald McCraney. The other Simon's name was Jameson Parker. Seriously, that was his name. Are they dead or alive?
Alive.
But what about the other Simon?
Oh.
No, they're both alive. You're fine. Next one is, this is going to be Jane Wyman is the actress's name. She played Angela Channing in Falcon Crest. I never saw one episode, but I saw the commercials a lot. Is Jane Wyman dead or alive?
She's dead.
Jane Wyman is dead. Yeah, you got it. Cagney and Lacey, another top TV show of 1983. Let's go through this. Cagney, the lady who played her, Sharon Gless. Is she dead or alive?
Alive.
The lady who played Lacey, her name's Tyne Daly. Is she dead or alive?
Alive.
Yeah, they're both alive. We've had the Fall Guy on here before. We've asked about the lead character, Lee Majors. But let's talk about his sidekick, Howie. The actor's name, Howie in the Fall Guy, is Douglas Barr. Is he dead or alive?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm going to say alive.
That's a great guess. You nailed it. Another great TV show from 1983 is one of the car shows. There's a lot of those. There's like Starsky and Hutch. There was Knight Rider. This is Hardcastle and McCormick. But Hardcastle, let's start with him. The actor's name is Brian Keith. Is he dead or alive?
Brian Keith is dead.
Oh, you knew that one. McCormick was played by Daniel Hugh Kelly. Dead or alive?
I have no idea. Daniel Hugh Kelly.
McCormick from Hardcastle and McCormick.
I'm going to say dead.
Dang. Man, you got through 8 of them. Thank you very much, Becky in Arlington. I appreciate it. Let's go down to Chance in McKinney. You ready for Dead or Alive?
Yes, sir.
Man, Becky almost cleared the board for you. You only have 2 more.
Oh, snap.
All right, so there was a TV show that was called Trapper John MD. It was the 20th most popular TV show in 1983. The guy who played Trapper John is Pernell Roberts. Dead or alive?
Alive.
Pernell Roberts. Boy, you screwed the pooch on that one, Chance. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Dustin in Dallas, you only got one guy to get the tickets to see Luke Bryan this Friday. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. This is the theme for the TV show Dynasty. Main character, Alexis Colby, was played by Dame Joan Collins. And I'm not being crude. She was made an actual dame by the Queen of England. Joan Collins. Is she dead or alive?
She is alive.
Yes, there you go. You got it. You're the big winner. Hang on. Dustin in Dallas, congratulations, sir. With your superior knowledge of 1983 TV shows, really just had to get one right. You have won tickets to see Luke Bryan. He's going to be at Dos Equis Pavilion this Friday, June 20th. I've seen Luke Bryan live. It's pretty good. It sounds like if Kermit the Frog had been born in the country, but he's got some good songs. For the rest of us, we get tickets at livenation.com. This has been Dead or Alive. Coming up next, today's episode of What Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Listen, I only have a few minutes left, but I want to brag on what an awesome show we had today. We had some good guests who were talking about some heady, important World War III level things with the Israel and Iran and how that's affecting foreign policy. We covered a lot of great ground with all the No Kings protests that happened across the country over the weekend with a specific focus on what happened here in North Texas. And then we had the great Tiger King himself on, Joe Exotic. So if you're just joining us and you missed the first 2.5 hours of the show, you really want to come back to the podcast and check that out. And if you're just joining us, you even missed Dead or Alive. You missed everything. You missed everything. That's what the podcast is for. If you think this is funny, you should hear the rest of the show. So go check it out. Wherever you're already listening to podcasts, you can search for it there. I prefer you go to WBAP.com or the WBAP app. I know I've said that before, and a lot of people don't. It would just be nice. But now we got to play What Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time?
Jasmine Crockett, queen of the liberal tea.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body, Governor Hot Wheels, and he is a hot ass mess, honey.
Queen of the liberal tears.
All right, today's episode of What Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time is brought to you by the Joe Exotic Pardon Crew. I'm starting a crew to just keep raising hell until Joe Exotic gets pardoned. Jasmine Crockett, she is the congressional representative from the district that I'm sitting in right now. Did you know that? You know we're in Jasmine Crockett's district? So let's just go to the tape. What did she say this time?
That has been killed, and if they've been killed by an immigrant, then God darn it, every single immigrant is going out and they are killers, and that is the problem. But they don't want to talk about white supremacy. I don't know how many hearings we gonna have about the fact that there's been this one immigrant that killed this one person.
Yeah, let's talk about it. White supremacy. This weekend, I'm going to do a little more digging and lay out some more evidence on this weird string of assassinations and assassination attempts that happened in Minnesota this weekend. On this one, I'm following the Dan Bongino rule. Don't even talk about it until you've had 48 hours for the details to shake out, because this one doesn't fit any patterns. It is so off kilter. But if I may speak out of turn, this actually looks like the rare case of violence, politically motivated violence from a right winger. It's not like it never happens. It just happens a lot more often. However, even this guy, not a white supremacist. I am fascinated to ask these people, because I know plenty of Democrats in my off radio life, and I asked them, name a white supremacist. Name one. Can you name one? Name a white supremacist. Do you know one? Like, is there someone you work with? Is there a local leader? Because when you talk about people who are concerned with race-related issues, I can name some leaders from the black community. I can name some leaders from the Hispanic community. I don't think I can name any from the Asian community. They don't seem to get into that whole bag. But what are you talking about when you say white supremacist? Who is their leader? It's not Donald Trump. What's the last white supremacist killing that we had? So, actually, I have asked that question, and I have gotten answers. A lot of them point to Buffalo and El Paso. That's where the guys went to the grocery store. Well, one of them went to a grocery store in Buffalo. The other guy went to a Walmart Supercenter in El Paso, which is pretty much a grocery store. And they were specifically targeting non-whites. Now, the guy in El Paso was targeting illegal immigrants. The guy in Buffalo was targeting anyone who's not white. But it wasn't necessarily because he's a white supremacist, because people based on the color of their skin are better than other people. He is a self-described eco-fascist. He is an environmental-based terrorist. And you've seen these people. They burn down the new subdivisions that are being built in the Cascades in Oregon or whatever. But his complaint wasn't that he wanted white people to take over or, reign supreme over the other races. He wanted all humans to die out. He just liked white people because we're not replacing ourselves fast enough, and we are dying out, and that's what's good for the planet. So he's an anti-humanist, and his beef with non-white people in both El Paso and Buffalo is that they're actually expanding and growing their population. So he was just trying to curtail that. Now, that still counts in my book as some flavor of white supremacy, but I don't think that's what Jasmine Crockett has in mind. I don't think that's what any of these people have in mind. Not a guy who is who thinks highly of white people because we're dying off faster than the other races. It's not the traditional sense of what you picture in your head with the term white supremacist. Now, I can remember one that is legit and meets sort of the blanket definition without any caveats like environmentalism thrown in there. It was the guy that shot up the church in South Carolina. I believe he killed 8 people. He was that young guy with the goofy bowl haircut, and he kind of looked. He had the haircut from the kid in Liar Liar, but he actually went into a church service. He went into a black church. He sat in the back row, waited till they finished their service, and then he went on a killing spree. Now, I'm not saying there's zero violence from white supremacists in America, but in the priority list of like top 100 things that are ailing the black community, white supremacists aren't on that. White supremacists aren't on the top 200 list. In fact, the guy in his rantings, he had a little manifesto and some online postings that we gathered together. The guy that shot up the black church in South Carolina like 7 years ago or whenever that was, his big complaint was that he couldn't find any other people to join him. He tried to find a local Klan group to join. There wasn't one. Even in South Carolina, he was from like rural South Carolina. There wasn't a local Klan group to join. There wasn't a local neo-Nazi group to join. He did find some other people that were like 100 or so miles away, and they seemed to be kind of racist, but they didn't want to do anything about it. And so one of his big laments was, look, I want white people to rule over all other races, and I can't find anybody else to join me, even in little old rural South Carolina. No one within driving distance wants to meet or start a group or a club, much less go out and shooting. So yeah, look out for those white supremacists. They're everywhere. Just name one person in an elected office, whether it's at D.C., the state house, or any city council, that will raise his hand and say, I'm a white supremacist. Because I can't, show me one, just one in all of America, a nation of 340 million people. If it's a big problem, certainly there would be one. That's going to do it for the James Show. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.